Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Latondra Everhart. She is the founder and CEO of Mixed Greens for the Soul and author of the book, The Emotional Freedom Framework Guided Journal, Strategies for Mindful Living, which we'll definitely talk about. She is
Okay.
a national wellness and education expert with more than 20 years of experience helping individuals and organizations build sustainable systems. And we'll definitely put more on the show notes. So, Tanya, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited to talk to you on your platform. I love your platform, William, and
I appreciate it.
I'm especially excited to talk about makeup free. So as you can see, I am makeup free today.
Oh, and
So
you look naturally beautiful, so I love it. So,
thank you.
tell us a little bit about yourself. What was that journey like? You got the book. How did that come about? You got Mixed Greens for the Soul. How did that come about? What was that aha moment that drew you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I have a varied background, as they say. I started out in education, right, and servicing students with social emotional needs, behavioral needs. Had some own mental health issues in my family. And I saw some common threads throughout, this 20 plus years of experience. A lot of it deals with the lack of internal work. And again, having dealt with all of these evidence based practices and doing all of this research over the years, I ended up creating my own framework, the emotional freedom framework, that's based on a foundation of self awareness. Hopefully, we'll talk about that today, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence, right? And so, building on those things to create that solid foundation to help you again, the ultimate goal is to have emotional freedom.
So, again, that's some journey for you and everything. And today's topic is a good one, being makeup free. And one of the things I've seen, Latondra, in podcasts and in reading about a woman's makeup and how for guys, they always say, "Oh, women lie because they put on makeup. They don't look like that."
Yeah.
It makes them look good. It makes them feel good. Then guys will come back and say, "Well, are you doing it for a man?" And some women say, "No, I'm doing it for myself."
Yeah.
Are you noticing that too? Because I've seen women in my circle that are friends, and
Yeah.
they might put a little bit of touch up on the cheek, maybe,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the natural look for them, it looks good. I mean, I can understand that makeup can enhance someone's
Yeah.
beauty,
Yeah.
but what are you seeing out there? Are more women are they still relying on the makeup? Is that the self awareness that they feel not loved without the makeup?
You know,
So
man, you're asking a lot of deep questions there, William. So, not first of all, to answer your first question, you definitely notice people with the makeup, right? And you have makeup tutorials on different platforms and things like that. Um, it's a billion plus dollar industry, so
I've
somebody's
heard,
buying
yeah.
it, right? I think as women, we are taught that makeup makes us feel better, right?
Right.
And that comes from that place of being performative, right? Always what we call being on. And so, really, as little girls, you get little makeup kits, mirrors, and things like that. You watch your mom or your older aunts and women put on makeup. You see commercials and again, videos and things like that. And so, it teaches you, even if nobody tells you, it teaches you that who you are authentically, the natural you, it teaches you that maybe something's wrong with that person or that it's not enough, right? And so the older you get and the more validation you start to seek, whether it's in dating or other types of relationships, you automatically feel like your external self is what people will accept, right? And so it gets really deep. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. But to answer some of your question, I definitely noticed that people are, really into makeup. They rely on it, and it almost becomes a part of your wardrobe, right?
Are men putting pressure on women for the makeup? Now it depends. I see that some men prefer the natural look, some
Yeah.
men prefer a little bit of touch, and some like
I will say this. I will say that women get conflicting statements from men, and I'll give you an example. A lot of men in my life have said that, oh, I love the natural look, right? Like I love natural hair, I love natural nails, whatever, right? And even you today said, oh, you look great natural.
Yeah.
So that's a compliment, it's accepted. But then sometimes the women that are, that get the dates or that get whatever it is they're seeking, those are the women that look very inauthentic, that have a lot of accessories, if you will.
Right.
And so it's a conflicting message that we do receive, and
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. No, no, I don't interrupt. You said that it's a conflicting message. So it's basically is again, are men putting that pressure on some men?
I think so. You have to look at who leads the beauty industry, right? Are the people who create makeup, are the people who are in charge of marketing and advertising, are those men or women? It's probably a good combination, but I would bet you that the key decision makers are men.
Yeah, I'm I'm pretty sure you're right there.
Yeah.
Um, and, like I said, it seems like the younger generation are feeling more and more pressure
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to someone my age and their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I think it's like I said, maybe it's the society, the commercials, feel better with lipstick and gloss or whatever they call
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel bad for some of those younger women because it seems like they can't go out,
Yeah.
but they might feel like, oh, so no one's looking at me if I don't have makeup on. And
Yeah.
like I said, I think if they get a pulse of what some guys want, it's,
Well,
it's,
can I
it's
say this? I think people will accept you if you are authentic, right? And so one of the things that we teach over at Mixed Screens for the Soul is how to do the inner work, right? When your external self and your internal selves are not aligned, it causes a ton of exhaustion,
right. So
right?
how does a woman work on that then? You got the outside, right? You got the
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you put the shield, but if the inside is, you're conflicted, so yeah, talk more about that. I can see the wheel spinning.
Yeah, for sure. This is my jam, as they say. That internal work it takes a long time. It's not something that happens overnight, and it starts really with spotting trends about yourself. For example, when do you feel the need to be on all the time? When do you feel like you have to be performative, right? When do you feel, is it around a certain person? Is it in a certain, at a certain event, right? Or a certain stressful time in your life. So that's where that self awareness comes in. You have to know that you need to be looking for those things, right? And once you target what you're looking for, you really need to start to take literal data, right? For example, when I'm around my family, I feel like I have to be performative because for 3 generations, we've always, worn mink coats and red lipstick. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it really starts with that self awareness. But the opposite is also true. If you have that level of self awareness, you can also start to know what makes you feel good, right? And so if those things make you feel bad, start to play with some things that make you feel good, right? Is it wearing your hair a certain way? Like I love wearing my hair in braids, right? That makes me feel good. I love having a fresh face, but having some type of moisturizer on, right? So that makes me feel confident. And so it's all of those things. That's part of that internal work. Also, being able to dig deep enough to know if there are people around you who make you feel a certain way, make you feel like you're not pretty or not valuable, right?
I wanted to touch base on the validation.
That validation. Here's the thing, as children we're taught to be validated, right? You're taught if you're going to get into certain sports, somebody has to validate you. You're taught if you're going to get in certain clubs at school, you have to be validated. And certainly if you want to get a certain job, you must be validated, right? You have to look a certain way at your I'm casual today, but I I wear suits and things at work, right? And so all of that teaches you how to be performative, and therefore you're asking for other people's validation by proxy.
Mm. See, and I think that's a key, validation by proxy, because um, when I see, again, like I was telling you earlier, when I see other podcasters or I read articles, and somebody say, "Oh, who do you wear makeup for?" And some of the women on the panel or whatever, "Oh, I wear it for myself." And then the guys push back, "No, you're doing it for guys." So if a woman walks out, goes to the supermarket, she has a cap on and no makeup, and it's the summer, let's say New York City, and she's wearing, like a running shorts, I find that cool. I'm like, man, she's kind of hot.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
me. But I just, to me, just if you're relying on makeup to block that facade that you're not feeling good inside,
Mm-hmm.
now like you said earlier, or I said earlier, you're conflicted, aren't you? Because I don't want to go out if I don't have makeup, or maybe let me put a little bit of touch of this. I just see a lot of conflicting.
It adds to that exhaustion. That's exhausting. Think about doing that pretty much until you go to bed every day. That's exhausting. But William, one thing that I always say to people is, in terms of relationships, the right person falls for your presence, not your performance, right? And so, a little bit of what you just described is you're looking at that woman's presence, right? Not who she appears to be, but
Right.
you're, because the gym shorts and things probably mean that she's a little bit healthy to you. You know what I mean?
Sure,
And
sure.
so that's her presence. But I think we have to be very intentional about our words and our vocabulary as well,
Mhm.
right? And so if we're saying that we don't value this makeup or this facade, then we have to say what we do value, right? So if you don't value performance, you have to value presence.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. I love that. So going forward, right, in your practice and we'll talk about your book in another minute or so. Is there the word is it should be trickled out about, hey, because I think in your article I saw an article or your bio about Pamela Anderson,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
She went makeup free, and I saw her, and I'm like, I didn't think she looked bad at all.
But you know what, for Pam, it's such a statement for somebody like her or for an Alicia Keys, people like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because they're in the performance business,
yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
they get paid to look a certain way. I really appreciate what Pam did at Fashion Week, and she's been on this journey for a couple of years. I appreciate it because I saw a documentary of her some time ago where her always being on and being a so-called sex symbol, it really damaged her mentally and emotionally to the point where when she was her authentic self without makeup, I'm assuming she really didn't like herself, right? And so it is hard to show up in the world if you don't like yourself, if you don't like what you see in the mirror, right? And in terms of that presence, if you don't like yourself, nobody else is going to like you.
Mm, that's deep. That is.
Yeah, yeah, it gets really deep. And so, she's not just making a statement. Some people, I've heard people say, like, oh, she's just doing it for PR or for publicity. I think she's really being authentic. And I think because she started at such a young age, she never had the opportunity to be her authentic self. So I applaud her.
So, what are some steps that some young women can take to be their authentic self? To not, let's say, seek the validation of a man or whatever partner they may seek, and love themselves. Feel their own presence. If that made sense.
It makes sense. So, put simply, you have to get to know yourself, right? And so, again, knowing the things that make you excited. Your internal self may be the nerdy bookworm. If you're a man, it may be the side mechanic or something like that. So, getting to know the things that make you happy, right? The things that you don't that you would do for free is what I I say, right? And then I do have some very practical tips for people that I teach people. I do small groups and things over at Mixed Greens for the Soul. And one of the things we talk about is kind of what I talked about earlier. It's called an alignment check, right? Comparing your internal self to your external self, right? And most of the time, to be honest with you, those things are exact opposites, which is very sad when you think about it. They
Explain a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Your internal self, the nerdy bookworm, if you will, should really be very, very closely aligned to what you present externally. You should not be embarrassed if you like certain things. You should be willing to share that with the world because that's how you find your community, right? And in relationships and dating, that's how you find the person who's right for you. We if you're always on, if you're always performing, the person you connect with or that you attract is not your person because they're attracted to somebody who's not you.
Right. Okay.
Right? And
Let
so,
me explain, but you just hit it. Yeah.
yeah, and so when you have communication issues or when you guys don't see things eye to eye, it's because that person is responding to somebody that you presented yourself as that they think you are, right? And so it really, again, life to me is too short to always be in this state of exhaustion, right? But to answer your question, so do those alignment checks, figure out if your internal and external selves are anywhere close. And then, like I said before, notice when you're exhausted, right? And sometimes we do things like we overeat, we drink, we go out and party too much. All of the superficial things. But really, that may be a sign that you're exhausted from doing that emotional labor, right? And then the last thing I'll say that I think Pam did very well is that she gave herself permission to show up differently, right? To not show up as who they said she should be,
Right.
but to show up totally differently, right? And the other thing I want to add to that is you have to show up differently multiple times so that you become comfortable,
Mm.
right? It's like exercise. You're not comfortable with getting up at 5 a.m. exercising until you do it 100 times. If you're me, you know. But does that make sense to you?
No, no, definitely. Because I was wondering, as you're talking about Pamela Anderson, and I'm thinking to myself, how did she, like, what was that internal battle that she had? Because, like you said before, it seems like you always got to be on. Just think of it like a comedian, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You always got to be funny. If they see you serious, like, whoa, what's going on? So I
yeah,
can imagine a sex symbol or someone that's, considered
yeah,
beautiful or pretty, whatever the word is.
yeah,
You always got to be on. You can't go out with your hair and mask. You got a baseball cap, whatever.
yeah,
I'm glad. I always say, thank God I'm not a woman because,
yeah. It's a lot to contend with. Yeah.
oh man. First of all, Latonya, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I could probably talk to you for another hour or so.
Likewise, likewise.
Before I let you go, talk more about your book, more about your practice.
Yeah.
Any appearances you're gonna make? Are you gonna be on Oprah? Because I'm pretty sure I'll see you sooner or later.
Well, back in the day, I wish I could have been on Oprah, but I think your podcast is way better. So
Oh,
this
I appreciate that.
this is the emotional freedom framework. Again, it's about 300 pages, believe it or not. And it actually is sort of a workbook for adults to help you, again, do those self checks. It's very methodical and it skill builds. So it starts you at the very beginning and it builds your skills. It helps you with everything from self awareness to communication with others to meditation. So it gives you a lot of options to figure out who you are, right, and what you like. And again, the foundation of our practice is self awareness, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence piece is really important because that's when you get to the point that you are aware of how you show up in the world, meaning the impact you have on others, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's deep work. So 300 pages sounds like a lot, but it really is not. If people have the opportunity to use it every day if they want to. There are guided writing prompts in there. And it's just a really nice book in terms of taking you through. If you don't know where to start, it takes you through the whole process. And again, over at Mixed Greens for the Soul, there's tons of free things over there if you just want to get a taste of what we do, things like coping strategies, we work again with small groups, individuals, or for businesses. And so the ultimate goal is to reach that place of emotional freedom, because when you reach that emotional freedom, you are able to make decisions that make you happy. I mean, life is not very long when you think about it, and we all deserve to go through it from a perspective and a point of happiness.
No, no, I definitely agree. And if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
They can just shoot over to mixedgreensforthesoul.com. I have tons of contact information over there. You probably can find me on YouTube and things like that, LinkedIn, but I was started with mixedgreensforthesoul.com.
Yeah, I'll definitely put it on the show notes. And well, again, Latondra, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. Like I said, I know I'm going to have you back on down the road and
Yeah, for sure.
time out of your busy schedule.
For sure. Thank you, William. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good one.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.